are the centerpiece of the team. It's not going to be the only Pokemon that the team is going to play around, but it is often going to be that number one option. Typically is very, very offensive, bar some cases like, I don't know, like a really bulky, like a Sylvester Evoltal. So yeah, I think, of course you could just make all of these Pokemon really strong sweepers, but support is honestly really important in VGC, right? Speed control, being able to lower your opponent's stats, status conditions, stuff like that. If every Pokemon on your team is just pure offense, sometimes that can actually kind of hold you behind. So I think that's a really good point. And a lot of these Pokemon, like we've mentioned, we haven't even seen before. So yeah, let's just get into it.
So excited to be hopping into these battles here. Lee sending out that Zeraora and that Mew right away. Then on Lu's side, the Zeraora as well, but paired with this Melmetal.
Man, this is going to be so interesting, the Zeraora kind of dual mirror match here. And yeah, Lu here has a really cool set with that coaching and that fake out. So, that's exactly like that support you were talking about earlier. I think that the Zeraora here, yeah, may be able to just apply a lot of pressure immediately, but more of like defensive pressure, right? It's designed to set up the Melmetal here. Coaching, really, really cool as well. This Melmetal, you can see how much HP it already has. If it Dynamaxes, I mean, that's going to balloon up even more. And so from Lee's end, I'm curious if he's going to maybe try to set up like a Trick Room here and try to play towards his Melmetal in the back of his side.
I'm loving to see how these Pokemon are interacting together as well, especially with restricted formats and such. You only get to see 1 or 2 legendaries or restricted Pokemon out. And now we have all of them together, including Pokemon that have never been legal. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they all play off of each other. That Melmetal is going to be Gigantamaxing here. Then Zeraora with that knockoff. The Assault Vest just disappearing, and then Zeraora on Lu's side, I apologize, getting that coaching, getting an attack boost and a defense boost here, so this Melmetal is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, look how much HP it has as well. The Pokemon are level 100, but nearly 1,000 HP. You don't see that very frequently, and the coaching strategy is really cool, but I think both players, we'll see what the Mew goes for here, because if it is something like Trick Room, I think that'd be very, very fascinating. And yeah, it's going to be that Trick Room. So I think the knockoff there is really interesting, right? Because you eliminate the item from Melmetal immediately, gets rid of anything like a Life Orb, Assault Vest, Weakness Policy. And yeah, Lee's going to bring in his Melmetal now, and it's really, able to just play from one turn ahead, right, in terms of the Dynamax, because Lu's already committed a turn to Dynamax. You've also gotten rid of the Assault Vest. Now that you know that it has Assault Vest, you know that it can't protect as well, right? And so Lee here, free to target that slot. I think we should expect to see his Melmetal Dynamax. Now what I'm curious about is the item on his Melmetal. Is it something like a Life Orb? What does Mew really do after setting up that Trick Room as well, right? Mew is typically a pretty fast Pokemon, so can it actually, do anything under Trick Room, or is it kind of just relatively useless right now from Lee's end? We'll have to see.
Right, so we see that Melmetal is also going to Gigantamax here. I'm really interested to see what this Mew's doing. Like you were bringing up, it's normally a fast Pokemon as well, with so many different options it can do. We've already seen that it has the Trick Room. Is it going to be providing more support? Is it going to be attacking? What can it do at this point?
That's the answer. It's Bulldoze, and it goes first before Melmetal. So, indicating either Melmetal's maybe a little bit speedy, or more likely Mew is very slow, potentially even holding an item to decrease its speed further, and it activates that Weakness Policy on Lee's Melmetal.
This Mew set, I'm absolutely loving this. We're going to be seeing that max weight into the Mew, only dealing about half of its HP here.
Yeah, targeting the Mew there, likely, not wanting to activate a potential Weakness Policy on Melmetal, but because that Mew has this really interesting Bulldoze setup, able to actually just move beforehand. And so, the big thing for Lee right now is he has a Melmetal at +2 attack, also getting special defense boost, which is pretty important when you consider that Lu has a lot of special attackers on her team. And that's why I actually really like the knockoff that Lee went for on turn 1. You eliminate any potential Weakness Policy from the back, right? Lu giving us a sneak peek of her Pokemon in the back end. It's going to be that Choice Scarf Kyogre coming out right now, but not really what you want to bring, especially when the Trick Room is up. So I think Lee is actually in a phenomenal position right now where he has an extra turn of Dynamax, and his Melmetal is just considerably stronger than Lou's Melmetal, right? You can probably target that Kyogre slot with a Max Quake relatively safely and just ignore Melmetal for a turn here, especially because, you know, Melmetal is not going to be able to pick up the one-hit KO onto your side. But yeah, that Bulldoze Mew moving before Melmetal to activate that weakness policy in Trick Room, certainly not what I would have expected going into this battle.
I would not have either. What a great synergy those two Pokemon have. That's unexpected, but I'm absolutely loving this. Lou debating the target here. At this point, are you really wanting the Mew to stick around to see what else it has to offer? You just want to get it out, or do you just want to get the Melmetal out since it has the weakness policy and it's dealing some massive damage? That Max Lightning hitting into the Kyogre, just one hit, taking it off of the field and activating that electric terrain as well.
Yeah, so getting rid of Kyogre, picking up another knockout, and I mean, this reminds me a lot of the strategies we've seen previously, right, as Max Knuckle comes out from Lou's end. So, yeah, they're able to do a little bit of damage to Melmetal, but that barely tickled, to be honest, right? And I think, like I was saying, this reminds me a lot of... Oh!
Mew with the transform! Lee now has two Melmetals out on his side of the field here.
You know, I'm so glad, Sierra, because you literally just asked, you know, like, do you just get rid of Mew? And I was thinking, hey, maybe you just let Mew stay on the field, right? What else is it really going to do? Well, that's literally the best possible option. Lee has two Melmetals on the field. He still has a turn of Dynamax. Trick Room is still up. I mean, I think there's just really no way out of this on Lou's end. And you can see she has a very interesting Xerneas set. It's actually a physical Xerneas, and you don't see that very often in, you know, Series 8, for example, or just historically in VGC, because most Xerneas sets are kind of like Geomancy oriented. But I think physical Xerneas actually makes a lot of sense in the context of this format specifically. However, one of the downsides for Lou right now is that none of her Pokemon carry Protect, basically. So as a result, this is perfect for a Trick Room team, right? You Trick Room, you get that weakness policy activated, you just pick up a one-hit KO every single turn. So I think Lee in a really commanding position, and we're going to see Mew go for that double iron bash.
The Mew taking out the Xerneas right away. The physical Xerneas is so interesting, but not really, I mean, it's not going to do too much against two Melmetals here. Melmetal on Lou's side of the field, going for the body press into the Mew here. And it holds on. Oh my God. This Mew is not going anywhere.
No, it's not. Oh my goodness. And you know, the Max Quake comes out there and Lou's Melmetal is completely dominant right now. And going into this match, you know, there's three Melmetals on the field.
I just love the view of this. How often do you see this?
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, we were already excited going into this match just because it features some Pokemon that we never see, and somehow we ended up in a scenario where there are three Melmetals on the field.
Alright, Lee's real Melmetal going for the Protect, and the opposing Mew going for Earthquake here. Should be picking up the kill on Lou's Melmetal here, and Lee is going to be taking game one.
That was such a crazy match, Sierra, and you know, you were excited to see the Mew come out. Exactly. So let's get into the second game right now. I'd love to see some adjustments from Lou's end, maybe like a fake out. She has that on Zeraora plus that Xerneas, for example. That way you could double up onto Mew, just pick up a KO. But either way, the priority here is to definitely deny that Trick Room.
All right. And then on Lou's side, the Zeraora Melmetal start again. Lee with the Zeraora Mew. So looks like Lou is debating that fake out into the Mew. Sure enough, to try and deny that fake out here. And possibly just doubling right into it. I mean, I feel like that's Lou's best bet going into this match, is just to deny the Trick Room and be able to be offensively and sweep from there.
Yep, absolutely. The goal is to just make sure Trick Room does not go up. I like the decision not to Dynamax as well, because I think Lou realizes, hey, the Zeraora actually isn't really threatening me very much with offensive pressure. So yeah, love the fake out adjustment. I think that's exactly what she needed to do this time around.
That knockoff critical hit going into Lou's Zeraora, and Melmetal with that double Iron Ash hitting into the Mew is doing doing a good amount of damage here, but regardless, Mew is going to be flinched with that fake out and won't be able to do anything this turn.
Yeah, so this is what's really interesting, right? Because Trick Room's priority is so low, you know, Lou now can maybe just go for another double Iron Bash. I mean, that alone actually should pick up the knockout, so you don't even need to go for that flinch chance. I was thinking, you know, let's say Mew survived a little bit more HP. Double Iron Bash actually does have that opportunity to flinch as well, but I think this is exactly the adjustment Lou needed to make in this second game. You know, fake out to ensure Mew does not set up that Trick Room on turn 1. Now Mew's in a really awkward spot, right? Zeraora just keeps spamming these knockoffs, but Trick Room doesn't go up. This game is a lot harder for Lee.
Lee hitting into the Zeraora on Lou's side again, so we won't see a coaching, but we will see that Iron Bash into the Mew, taking it out. So we'll have to see how Lee adjusts here without getting that Trick Room off going forward into this match.
Yeah, absolutely. And Volcanion here in the back as well. I think that's a really good adjustment on Lou's end because she realized, hey, I need something to hit Melmetal for more damage. Xerneas, you know, definitely not going to cut it here. So I think Volcanion could be a good switch in if you're expecting Lee to bring out his Melmetal right now. But it is tricky, right? Maybe Lee opts to not bring in the Melmetal because Trick Room isn't up. So Lou bringing that Xerneas, perhaps expecting something that's not the Melmetal. Let's see what it's going to be. It is still going to be Melmetal. Okay?
It is the Melmetal here. Great. So very intrigued to see with the physical Xerneas what type of damage is going to be dealt here. As you touched on last game, normally it is a special attacker, but close combat attacks like this, hitting on the physical end, it's very different, but I'm intrigued to see what we can do here.
I think the scary thing here is if you go for a close combat, you are still going to activate that weakness policy on Melmetal. So the question here is, you know, with this double up from Lou's end, is that enough to actually knock out the Melmetal, for example? Are you willing to let its weakness policy get activated? Because, yeah, I think like one of the main things that gave me an advantage in that last game was the fact that the weakness policy setup was just so easy, right? And it was able to do so much damage in its couple of turns of policy. So it looks like Lou debating a little bit whether or not she wants to target the Melmetal. And so, you know, splitting the damage here. The thing about Zeraora is it can continue to go for knockoffs. You can get rid of items, and I think getting rid of Xerneas' item here is pretty critical. Since we didn't really see anything about that Xerneas in that last game, you know, I think Lee's definitely got to at least respect the Geomancy setup. But yeah, this is why by bringing in the Xerneas first, I mean, it definitely feels a lot of pressure from that opposing Melmetal.
Lou with that Gigantamax Melmetal. Lee as well going to be Gigantamaxing here. Both players looking to do a good amount of damage here and start trying to get set up.
So let's see. Really curious. You know, I think from Lee's end, just expect another knockoff, and the question is what his Melmetal really wants to opt for right now. Who do you want to target? Yeah, the knockoff here goes into Xerneas, and I think that makes sense because you know the opposing Melmetal has Assault Vest, and right now you are just using physical Pokemon.
Great. And close combat not really doing too much damage into this Melmetal here, and Xerneas is going to get a defense and special defense drop, and is activating the weakness policy all in the same turn. The Melmetal with the special Gigantamax move here, hitting into the Xerneas and just taking it off of the field.
Yeah, so it's still looking so strong. I mean, this Max Quake's going to come out. Close Combat was able to do a little bit, but that knockoff was really critical. You know, is going to be able to knock out the Zeraora at least, but that special defense boost, not very helpful against the opposing Melmetal right now. But the upside for Lou is that she has conserved her Volcanion, and she's gotten rid of the Zeraora, which threatens with Electric-type Pokemon, right? So, Electric-type attacks into the... It's Groudon as the last one. Wow, okay. So, this is so interesting because Groudon comes out, it sets up the Sun, so Volcanion can actually do more damage with potential Fire-type attacks. But then on the opposing side, Groudon also has that Precipice Blade, so it just threatens with a ton of damage right now onto, you know, super effective damage on both of these Pokemon. So this is going to be a really interesting finish. I mean, we know that Lou's Melmetal can't protect. Lee should recognize that as well. You know, you aren't able to get defense boosts through these G-Max attacks because they're not Max Steel Spikes. And so from Lou's end, I think it makes a ton of sense to just lock yourself or go for the Heat Wave, get a lot of damage. And Lee's going to opt for that Max Guard. Doesn't want to faint this turn.
Great. Sure enough, huge damage onto that Volcanion here. Volcanion going for the Heat Wave. And it misses! Oh no! This is not what you want to see on Lou's side here. Is going to be hitting into the ground Only dealing about half damage though. That was a huge miss here.
Yeah, I was thinking that would be enough to knock out the Groudon, given that I think the Volcanion has that Life Orb here, so able to survive the turn. Now, what's interesting is Melmetal's Gigantamax effect subjects you to Torment, so Groudon actually can't go for another Precipice Blades. It's Rock Slide, but it misses the Volcanion!
Volcanion with a chance to redeem itself, going for that Heat Wave, misses the Melmetal. Oh my goodness.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen so many moves miss in the span of 2 turns. Like, what?
At this point, it's just easier to call the moves that are connecting here. Melmetal hitting into Lu's Melmetal here, bringing it down to the red, and getting that special defense boost as well. I am just... The Volcanion and the Groudon both shouldn't be on the field right now. Either of them should be knocked out. It's just really funny to see.
Yeah, I mean, misses aside, I think, so Lee, had the opportunity to potentially target down the Volcanion there, but ended up actually targeting Lu's Melmetal. So, if Groudon misses a Precipice Blades once more, Heatwave can actually maybe just pick up the double knockout here. So, Lee had the opportunity to potentially knock out Volcanion, was maybe reading, I think the reason he didn't was expecting the Rock Slide to just connect and pick up the knockout there. So, but not covering for that option, Volcanion actually potentially gets another attack off here. So, Groudon really needs to connect, right? I mean, we even see this in Series 8. The problem with Groudon often is that it's relying on slightly inaccurate attacks in Precipice Blades and Rock Slide. Here's Precipice Blades! And Volcanion
misses the Volcanion again. We'll pick up the kill on the Melmetal, but this Volcanion is around for another turn, going for the Heat Wave, and it finally does connect here.
Oh!
Doesn't pick up the KO though on the Groudon, will pick up the KO on the Melmetal. And we are down to these 2 Pokemon that just cannot land their moves.
Yeah, I mean, so many misses, but the fact Groudon hangs on there is actually huge, right? However, it still needs to hit an inaccurate attack here, right? You need to go for Rock Slide or Precipice Blades. I think Rock Slide will probably finish it off from the range so that's adding slightly higher accuracy. So that's probably what you want to go for. So Lou is still hoping for a miss. And Precipice Blades!
And misses! Again! Steam Eruption coming up! Finally pick up this KO.
I can't believe... And both Pokemon end up fainting as well, but in the end, Lou ends up winning kind of the tiebreaker in between those Pokemon faints. I mean, I'm at a loss for words. I've never seen something like that. I think that was, maybe 5 or 6 misses in the span of 3. One thing to note is that Volcanion mix-up was actually really, really important, so I think that Lou's going to want to continue bringing that because that is the best answer against Melmetal. So let's jump into this 3rd game. I just can't believe it.
Me neither. Alright, on Lee's side, the Mew Zeraora start yet again. And then we're going to see the Calyrex Shadow Rider and the Melmetal. So the Calyrex hasn't been brought to either of these matches. Really interesting to see what this one's going to be bringing here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a cool mix-up here because, yeah, well, first of all, that's a really interesting set with Speed Swap as well as Metronome. But the reason I think that's a great adjustment is because of that Astral Barrage, right? You put on that offensive pressure against Mew immediately, and like we were talking about, like, Lou really needs to deny Trick Room in this matchup. I think if Trick Room goes up, it is basically a disaster, like kind of how that first game played out. So I really like Lou's adjustments both in Game 2 and Game 3, this time around mixing it up with that Astral Barrage pressure. And we know that Zeraora has knockoff, so it's a question of what item that Calyrex has, right? If it has Focus Sash, or maybe it just survives the knockoff anyway, but knockoff is 4 times super effective damage, so Focus Sash on this Calyrex, for example, would make a lot of sense. Either way, I think this is yet another good lead adjustment by Lou, whereas Lee still kind of in a tricky spot where I'm not sure he can really guarantee that Trick Room up.
All right, Lou going for that Gigantamax right away here. Like you said, just trying to deny that Trick Room here. Really interesting to see how much damage is going to be done, whether it's going to be picking up the knockout here. Last game, it was denied because of the fake out, but Lou just needs to be dealing enough damage here to get it. Unfortunately, that Zeraora going for the knockoff and just taking out the Calyrex before it could do anything here, which is huge.
Yeah, and actually had that spell tag instead of focus sash, so I think Lou this time around probably just wasn't expecting the Zeraora to come out again. I think maybe expecting just a lead adjustment, right? But Lee gets what he wanted on turn 1, which is getting that Trick Room up. So I think at the end of the day, that's definitely a positive trade-off from Lee's end, right? The Mew doesn't get KO'd, and Trick Room goes up, so now once again, you're kind of priming the Melmetal in the back for success. But I think what's a little bit awkward here is that you don't get that free switch in into that Melmetal, right? Zeraora is still out on the field, so I do like Lou's decision to not knock out that Zeraora. This is often the tricky thing when you're using, more committed Trick Room teams, where you have to make the decision. Do you just hard switch out into your sweeper? Against these really strong legendary Pokemon, you probably don't want to. But then the thing is, you also risk maybe just having both of your Pokemon get KO'd. If Mew faints and it doesn't have Protect here, for example, then you can't get that Bulldoze policy combination off nearly as easily as it happened in that first game.
Mew is going for the transform here. Copy and lose Volcanion here. Melmetal hitting that Max Quake is going to be into the Zeraora. I'm really interested to see Lee's decision to be transforming into the Volcanion here.
I actually really like that, I think, because Mew probably didn't have any other options to go for at this point, and by transforming, you transform into something that puts on pressure, and for this exact reason, the transform allows them to take the water absorb and heal back as a result. So yeah, I think that was a really great play because Lee, potentially could have lost both of his Pokemon on that given turn, but as a result, doesn't lose the Mew, now has something that pressures the opposing Melmetal, actually also confirms Lou's moveset as a result, and you get a free switch into your Melmetal, so now you basically have 2 turns extra in terms of Dynamax with Melmetal and multiple turns of Trick Room to work with.
Though the Mew having transformed won't be able to be hitting the Bulldoze for the Melmetal weakness policy, so Lee's either not going to be dealing too much damage or is just going to have to hope that Lou hits a super effective attack into that Melmetal instead here.
Yeah, one thing I'm curious about is you could, because I believe that there is actually Flare Blitz on that set, so you could maybe go for a self Flare Blitz onto your own Melmetal, activate that weakness policy. Now, that obviously does a little bit more damage than you would like it to. My other question here is, can Lee's Melmetal get the 1 KO onto the opposing Volcanion? Because if so, I think Lee's Melmetal is really primed for success here in this endgame, but looks like Mew's just going to offer that Heat Wave. Also makes sense. Get a little bit of chip damage here. I was thinking one play you could make is self Flare Blitz and then Max Quake into the opposing Volcanion.
Max Quake coming out on Lou's side. Onto that Mew, trying to take it out. Unfortunately, I don't think it quite gets there, but we will see that special defense boost. And then Quake from Lee's side as well, going to be hitting onto the opposing Volcanion. Doing huge damage, bring it down to the red, but not quite picking up that knockout.
Yeah, it's actually able to survive, so that's why I was thinking, maybe you want to go for the self-Flare Blitz. Heat Wave's going to come out, and it is going to do a sizable amount of damage to the Melmetal, but, definitely can understand why Lee didn't want to just target himself, and in the end, Lou actually ends up activating that weakness policy anyway, so now you have to deal with the Melmetal under Trick Room with a bunch of, turns of Trick Room left. And Lee still has another free switch in as well, and Volcanion faint, so I think Lee just in a really fantastic position because once again, Trick Room just going up was really, really tough in this one. So, Xerneas is going to come out, but once again, Lou just doesn't have Protect on any of her Pokemon, so it's not like you can, Protect to maybe stall out the Trick Room. With Groudon being Lee's last Pokemon, that the Xerneas was Choice Banded because you knocked it off earlier, so you can just go for your Gigantamax attack into that Xerneas, guarantee a knockout onto that, and then Groudon can just go for Precipice Blades, or a Fire Punch if it's running it onto the opposing Melmetal. So I think from Lee's point right now, you just make some very, very safe plays, and from Lou's end, you maybe need Lee to make some mistakes here, right? For example, not target the Xerneas, and for some reason target Melmetal, but also not manage to pick up the KO onto Melmetal. But the main thing here is that policy is activated, so it's so tough to come baback from Lou's end at this point.
Exactly. We had such a close game, too, after that Trick Room was denied, but unfortunately, with it being up, Lou's in a really tough spot here. Is going to be hitting that about Iron Bash into this Groudon here. Then G-Max Meltdown coming out into the Xerneas and just taking it right off of the field, bringing Lou down to just that Melmetal left.
Yep, and with Melmetal around, but, Groudon is able to flinch, so, I was thinking maybe you could, double crit, double flinch into Groudon, but the tricky thing here is that there's still 1 turn of max left on Lee's end, right? So that's actually so critical in these matchups We actually see this in Series 8 a lot as well, right? If you're able to Dynamax after your opponent and you haven't lost too many resources, very big advantage. And so I think this game was really kind of decided off that first turn. Once again, Lee able to get that Trick Room off. So at this point, you can see that Lou's opting for the Thunder Punch. That's actually definitely the correct play to just paralyze the Melmetal, but the opposing Melmetal is going to attack first, going to get that Max Quake off, going to pick up that one-hit KO. So what a set that we ended up seeing here.
Honestly, just the like what Mew was able to accomplish in these sets was absolutely amazing. I feel like definitely MVP going into these matches here, especially being able to get that Trick Room. That Trick Room was able to set up Lee for the win in Game 1 and Game 3.